One of the things that most writers, myself included, love about our profession is some of the amazing things we get to do. I have tagged endangered leatherback sea turtles in Michoacan, Mexico, and I have banded red-tailed hawks on the Carrizo Plain of California. And we get to meet and interview some interesting people. I have interviewed Sir Dermot Turing about his uncle, the famous codebreaker Alan Turing. And recently, I got to interview the last surviving Navajo Code Talker who saw combat in the Pacific Theater during World War II, including on Iwo Jima. And that is what today's episode of Walt's Wanderings is about. For a project I'm writing, I wanted to interview this genuine American hero, Thomas Begay, who is now 101 years old. His son told me he and his father would be at a commemoration of the 81st anniversary of the flag raising on Mount Suribachi on Iwo Jima, and I might be able to speak to his father after the event. I jumped at the chance. The town of Sacaton, Arizona, has held this event every year since the 40th anniversary of the flag raising. It is held on the closest Saturday to February 23rd, the actual date on which Joe Rosenthal took his famous photo. One of the flag raisers, Ira Hayes, was a member of the Pima Tribe of the Gila River Indian community, so there's a statue of him in the park in Sacaton, and his memory is honored there. The park is also named for and has a statue of Matthew B. Wan, another member of the Pima Tribe, who was the first Arizonan to die in World War I. Thomas Begay was the Grand Marshal of this year's Sacaton Parade, which was especially appropriate given that they were both Marines, both Native Americans, and both fought in Iwo Jima. They knew each other. The parade not only commemorates Ira Hayes and the flag raising on Iwo Jima, but celebrates and honors all Native American veterans from all tribes. At the ceremony after the parade, one of the speakers said that veterans from 17 states attended this event, including representatives of various tribes in Kansas, Texas, Oklahoma, South Dakota, New York, and other places. Having spent time in the Navajo reservation, I was happy to see that that tribe was represented in the parade. And having a friend who's a member of the Yakima tribe from Washington State, I was happy to see their veterans present as well. The speaker also said that although indigenous people have not been treated well by the United States government, they are willing to serve because they still regard themselves as loyal Americans. And in the culture of many of the tribes, the ethos of the warrior culture continues. In World War II, Native Americans served at a higher per capita rate than that of any other ethnic group. Among the veterans being honored at the Sacaton event were much younger veterans whose grandparents were not yet born when World War II occurred. There were 66 contingents in the parade, many having come a long way, but for many it was also an annual event, a chance to reunite with friends from all over. As a non-Indigenous person, I was decidedly in the minority here on the Gila River Indian Reservation.
Out of Batesville, Arizona, will always be remembered. And he was one of our KIAs. So hold him and his family in your hearts.
There were several flyovers by vintage military aircraft. After the parade, there was a flag raising near each of the memorials, and a children's chorus sang the hymns for each of the service branches as their flags were raised. Wreaths were placed at the memorials for Matthew Wan, Ira Hayes, as well as Native American women vets, and a Japanese American who was recruited from the internment camp in nearby Poston and who fought with the 442nd Go for Broke Regimental Combat Team in Italy and France during World War II. At the ceremony after the parade, Mr. Begay was given gifts by the governor of the Gila River tribal community. And there were speeches by tribal leaders and other local officials. With the help of his son, Ron, Mr. Begay then stood up to speak. The voice of the 101-year-old was a bit frail, but he sang the Marine Corps hymn in Navajo, accompanied by his own drumming. For anyone not familiar with the Code Talkers, they were an important part of the American victory in the Pacific during World War II. If you know what language someone is speaking and what they're talking about, it's only a matter of time till you break a spoken code. To a limited extent during World War I, when some individual commanders noticed that some of their men were speaking Native American languages to each other, they got them to man the radios, reasoning that the Germans would not be able to find anyone who spoke Choctaw to translate. During World War II, the Marines wanted a more reliable method of communications and recruited Navajo Marines to create a code, a language within a language to use on the radio. They had to come up with words for things that did not exist in Navajo language. Turtle for tank, and big fish for battleship, for instance. They also had 3 spoken forms of each letter of the alphabet. While English used Alpha, Baker, Charlie, etc., the Navajo might use apple, ant, or axe for A, so that even if Japanese code breakers listening in thought they were starting to figure things out, there was another layer of confusion to undo. The code was never broken. Most of the Code Talkers died without ever getting credit for their service. Because the program was a closely guarded secret until 1968, and the military did not want the code to be known in case it was ever needed in another war. The museum in Gallup, New Mexico has a large exhibit about the Code Talkers, including the G.I. Joe issued to honor them. It seemed an odd place for a history exhibit, but the Burger King in Kayenta, Arizona also has a large exhibit about the Code Talkers. The explanation is that the father of the owner of the fast food restaurant was a Code Talker, and the man displays some of his father's things as well as other memorabilia there. It's not far from Monument Valley, so if you're ever in that area, it's definitely worth checking out. I will cover more of my visit to Monument Valley and the Four Corners region of Arizona in a future episode. On this trip to meet Thomas Begay, I also stopped at Poston, the site of one of the camps where Japanese Americans were locked up during World War II. The government asked the local tribes if they could build these camps on their reservations. The tribes said absolutely not. They wanted nothing to do with any part in the forced relocations and incarcerations, having themselves been subjected to that treatment by the U.S. government. But the government built the camps on their land anyway. There is a small memorial at Poston, but the Colorado River tribes did not want their land permanently associated with this dark spot of American history. The Gila River tribes have a small memorial, but they are not accessible to the general public. Again, not wanting to make a tourist attraction out of this horrible event. I have paid several visits to the site of the former camp in Manzanar in California. It is a somber place that I will talk about in a future installment of Walt's Wanderings. But next time, I will take you along as I find some unexpected things to see in Glasgow, Scotland. Subscribe so you don't miss out.